First match on AEW Dynamite this week was Will Ospreay and Orange Cassidy taking on Trent Beretta and Roderick Strong. Kind of stared off into the distance and thought to myself, how the flub did we get here? Also, hello my friends, welcome to Ups and Downs, and in case you didn't watch Raw Ups and Downs, yes, we are back in the room, the green screen is there, I'm in some magical place, whatever that means, and we're just back to business, although business never stopped. This should be my new catchphrase, maybe I'll put it on a t-shirt. Let's up those down. Don Callis was also on commentary for this match, and he was all like, oh, Will Ospreay and Orange Cassidy are totally my boys. I was like, that means they're not your boys at all, and you're gonna screw them. Ospreay is also just crazy over, and everybody went nuts for him as soon as his music hits. And while I'm sure we're heading in this direction anyway, he should probably become the guy and the face of the company. It's all right there, and we should eat it. What? Cassidy and Will just went crazy at the start of this too, and they did combo dives because everybody loves a dive. But of course, the Undisputed Kingdom had come out with Roddy. So at one point, Mike Bennett just grabbed his Ring of Honor title, essentially threw it in the ring, and that cast distraction, and Trent got in there, and the bad guys took over. They also then started working over Will Ospreay's back because they loved doing that, but you know the deal. Over the years, we took a piece of fruit, and we gave him hands, and we taught him how to get warm. Because Orange Cassidy's palm was going crazy, he got the hot tag. The problem was he was taking on basically two people here, which is when Trent used the ropes to wham his balls, and Roderick hit him with a gut buster, so now he was totally dead. Trent was then going to pile drive him on Simba the Steel Steps, which is what he did last week. And William was like, well, no, we can't have that again. It was pretty bad 7 days ago, and the tag klaxon, went off, and everybody started a fight. Will then got the tag, and he and Trent went at it, and I thought this was the best part of the match, because this is the kind of madness that I just want to see. Like, I doubt we'll ever get a Will Ospreay versus Trent Beretta AEW proper feud, so at least here we got to see it. We also got a tease for the weekend, because eventually Roderick Strong was back in, so he went at it with William Ospreay, and Will hit him with a cheeky Nando's kick, and he hit the Sky Twister press. I was like, how does he do it so effortlessly? Orange then tried to help out his brand new friend, but Trent was like, I don't want any of this, and he tried to superplex Ospreay, who of course landed on his feet. So at this stage, I'm like, what can't you do? If he comes in and plays chess one day, and he wins the AEW chess tournament, I will not be surprised. The bad guys then exposed the metal underneath team of the turnbuckle, because they're just like that, when Don Callis actually helped Orange Cassidy, which again will be a ruse down the line, but Roderick Strong was going to hit him with the end of Heartache, but Callis grabbed Orange's leg, which means he was trapped to the floor. But look, don't buy this, he's an absolute liar. Will was then back with the Oz Cutter, and because we did have a bunch of goofs on the outside, Ospreay was like, screw this, and he dove onto the Undisputed Kingdom. When he did do this, I think everybody forgot about Wardlow. Because he just totally destroyed Will Ospreay, and I'm pretty sure the referee saw this, but he totally ignored it. And you know what it meant? It meant Orange was all alone. This has happened to him before. You never see it happen to an apple, but if you're an orange, you single. It meant that Trent whammed him, allowing Roderick Strong to hit the end of Heartache, and he got the 1, 2, 3. Although this probably means, because the good guys did lose, that come the weekend, we are going to get a brand new international champion, and it's likely what we should do. We doubled down on this as well, because of course the Undisputed Kingdom jumped in there, and they finished off Will Ospreay as Roderick took the title, and he whammed it right in his face. You know the wrestling logic. If you do get beaten up on the show before the pay-per-view, you are likely going to win on the pay-per-view. That's just good wrestling maths, but of course this is getting it up. It was just a fun old time. The Elite were then backstage, and they told us straight, Darby Allin is banned from the building. Shib. Sanjay Dutt then walked in because he was going to kiss their ass, and also because Bryan Danielson has taken on Satnam Singh earlier. While the internet has been like, oh, I can't understand why this match is happening. I mean, it was made very clear. Matthew and Nicholas put a bounty on Bryan Danielson's head, so Sanjay was like, well, I got a big guy, he'll take it. The Young Bucks also made it very clear they don't really care about wins and losses, they just want him to absolutely destroy Bryan Danielson. When Sanjay Dutt was like, don't worry, he's going to break him like a pencil, and he snapped a pencil. And I was a bit like, Sanj, I don't need to see you break a pencil. Like, I can visualize that in my own head. Do you think I'm stupid? Why does everybody think I'm stupid? When the Bang Bang Gang were here, and they now have this little wagon they use when they come to the ring to transport their titles. So obviously that is the greatest thing ever. Excalibur was brilliant here too, because he was like, man, why do they even need that? We unified the 6-man championships, so they only need 1 set of belts. But again, why have 1 set of belts when you could have 2 set of belts? I mean, it stands to reason. They also really hate Pac, which is what Jay White reminded you of here. But as he had said his name so much, Pac appeared on the big screen. He was like, man, I'm a little bit ticked off right now. I'm a little bit sad. But given that I haven't had any friends for the last few weeks, look who's back, Jack. That's right, the lights went out, and the Death Triangle appeared at the entranceway. they have come back together. This includes Phoenix and Penta as the three ran to the ring to trigger a massive brawl, and we found out that the pay-per-view, it is going to be this 3-on-3 trios match, and surely that has the potential to steal the show, because every single one of them is pretty damn good. I also hope that we get more of this, and eventually we get the singles match between Pac and Jay White, because that's just something else I need in my life. I know I'm a very strange human being, but I accepted that long ago. But it was time for Hook versus Shibata versus Bryan Keith to see who was going to face Chris Jericho at Double or Nothing for the FTW Championship. It was really strange. Now, Jericho was on commentary with Big Bill. He was doing the finger guns thing again, so I was laughing. And fair play to Bryan Keith, because as soon as the bell went ding, 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 he looked at Hook and he was like, well, why don't I kick you right in the face? And he did. Hook then tried to apply the red rum, which is when Shibata left out, so he started suplexing everyone, and that ended with an STO onto Hook. I was like, damn, they're not friends anymore. Keith then hit a double underhook bomb onto Hook for another 1-2 ooh. But this was when I was a bit like, look, I love Bryan Keith. I think he's brilliant, but quite clearly he's been put in here so he can lose. So every time he did a pin, I didn't buy it. It then just went, you do a move, I do a move, we all do a move, when Keith was able to hit the diamond dust, but he didn't see Shibata coming, who then once again booted him right in the skull when he decided to think about submission. I mean, he'd already broken his neck with a neck breaker when he applied this knee bar / figure 4, and given that Bryan Keith's head was still free, Hook saw this, and he was like, well, why don't I just apply the red rum? Meaning, in the middle of the ring, Bryan Keith was in 2 submissions, and of course he tapped out. So the referee just went, well, I guess you both win. And I was like, I thought pro wrestling had been headed in the opposite direction for the last 25 years, but apparently not. And Jericho jumped off commentary here, and he was like, oh yay, we get to have the first ever triple threat match for the World Championship. And while he was acting like he was all happy, I think he meant it. Tony Khan also messaged Tony Schiavone to say this match will be happening at the pay-per-view. And at first I was like, well, that's weird. Surely the Elite are in control. But actually it was a bit of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to what was going to happen later. We'll get there. So look, I really did enjoy this 3-way. It was just another good old time. So I am going to give it an up. But when it comes to Bryan Keith, I did think it was a little bit unfair. We didn't just beat him, we totally murked the guy, and he does have a massive upside, and while we did utilize him here, I think sometimes you do need to think towards the future, so I'm giving that a down. I mean, I think a better way to get to a triple threat match with Jericho is you do Shibata versus Hook, and they just go to a draw. I mean, AEW loves draws, and to me, that's just a much easier story to tell, as opposed to taking Bryan Keith and essentially flushing him down the toilet. But look, maybe that's just personal to me because I am a big fan. That is why it gets it down. We then got this great video recapping everything that has happened with Mercedes Moné and Willow Nightingale before their match at the pay-per-view, and I'm very excited about that, when we did quite the 180, because we had another advert for the Young Bucks and their Reebok shoes. I can't lie, I love it. AEW then ran another video, this time telling you, oh my gosh, it is Takeshita versus Jon Moxley at the weekend too. And I think somebody realized, well, if he is a kind of #1 contender, or an almost #1 contender, he should probably get a win. So he took on Matt Sidell, and I tell you this, he killed him. I'm just gonna get this out of the way too, so you can get mad at me, and then we'll get back to the good stuff. But I am throwing in a down. I know, what an idiot. But I just think recently there's been too many matches on AEW when you sit down to watch them and you go, well, that guy's definitely gonna win, and that guy is definitely gonna lose. And it doesn't matter if we only have a few, but sometimes you can watch a show, and 90% of them are like this, and it just takes away some of the jeopardy. I love Jeopardy, it was a great game show, so it's a down. Otherwise though, Matt Sidell did have a great plan because Takeshita tried to hit the Blue Thunder Bomb. He was like, I'm not letting you hit me with that because it's totally crap. When Takeshita did hit the least devastating move in all of sports entertainment, which is the Blue Thunder Bomb, and even here, when he won in about 35 seconds, was it with this move? No, it was not. It's Sats. Instead, he just took his forearm and he walloped Matt right in the face, who crumpled on the floor, and he got the 1, 2, 3. I was a bit worried about Sidell. I think he was moving. Don Callis was then telling Takeshita to finish the job, which is when Jon Moxley walked to the ring, because of course that is his opponent. And even though he had a microphone, he just walked up to Takeshita and he went boink, and he smashed him on the head before he said, hey pal, I'll see you in a few days. Now I do have to admit it's a little bit irksome that on a pay-per-view we are doing a title eliminator match. However, there may be a caveat to this, because maybe, just maybe, Takeshita will beat Jon Moxley, and then Jon Moxley will still be the IWGP champion, and then we can redo the match for that belt, and I think that would do the world of good for Takeshita, so I'm going to sit here and keep everything crossed, and because I do believe this, I am going to give it an up. Now, of course, you'll be saying, Simon, maybe New Japan just decided they didn't want that. That is perfectly true, but I'm a positive Pete, So I'm going to be a positive Pete guy. The Bucks were then backstage handing out flyers saying, oh, by the way, Darby Allin is banned from the building. When they got to the gorilla position, and Swerve Strickland was sat in their seat, like children. He called them turds and made sure to destroy one of these flyers, which was the least badass thing I've ever seen in my life. Then he flipped that around because he said to the production truck, hey, hit my music, and he went to the ring. That's my Swerve. He also teased that maybe Allin was going to arrive, but here we had to get some other business out the way, and it was Swerve Strickland versus Nick Wayne. And look, if you knew their history, you knew this was going to be good, and it really, really was. Strickland also decided to throw Nick into Barricade, but all that did was give Wayne ideas, because he was like, oh yeah, we do have these wrestling friends. So he grabbed Strickland and he threw him into the ring post. The best part though is after that, Nick tried to do a moonsault to the outside. Swerve caught him, thought he got the better of this when Wayne was like, ha ha, I've got momentum, and he DDT'd him into the floor as a thing of beauty. He foolishly then tried this again, but Swerve had learned, so of course he grabbed him and threw him into the ring apron, which is the hardest part of the ring, when he went for the stomp and totally missed. That's when we got a code red instead, and Nick got the 1-2 ooh, but once again, we've already talked about this. In no way was Nick Wayne gonna win here, so I just kind of looked at it. It's still really good though, and eventually Swerve came back, where he basically had Nick Wayne as a corpse, when for some reason he did apologize, when he whammed him right in the skull with that house call, and he pinned him for the 1-2-3. So while it didn't go that long, it was still pretty good. Of course, Killswitch arrived from nowhere and beat up Swerve Strickland when Christian Cage and Mother Wayne also came out, but I don't think they checked on Swerve properly, because he got back to his feet, and he whacked the dinosaur right in the balls. So now we do know that prehistoric creatures did have groins. It meant Swerve and Cage were all alone after Killswitch got thrown out of the ring, when Cage was like, man, I gotta get out of here, and he ran away. What a coward. But he had a car waiting to go, so he was laughing because he was like, I am going to escape, and at the very last second, another vehicle blocked its path, and who was driving that thing? It was Prince Nana. He had returned to AEW. Swerve then quite literally pulled Christian out the window, which must have been horrible, and DDT'd him on top of the car, which is when Prince Nana made his intentions very clear, and he passed the chair to him, and he said, listen, you should concerto that guy, and just when he was going to do it, Cage came to his senses, and he ran away again. I mean, that's fair, he wanted to stay alive. He's a BG. I really like this feud though, and I'm going to continue to tell you that Christian is a great first program, or great first opponent for Swerve Strickland, because he just gets it, and I'm very excited about this match, even though sure, Christian Cage isn't going to win, but if something works, it works. I can't do the science. Up. Kyle O'Reilly versus Malakai Black was next. And in no universe was this going to be bad. I'm pretty sure Malakai Black is now wearing Adam Copeland's wedding ring on his mask because he's totally psychotic. When these two got in the ring, they just kicked each other. They kicked each other so hard, it was kind of horrible. O'Reilly then kneed him in the face as they both went karate kicks. They tried to do leg sweeps, where Malakai was like, well, I'm going to knee you in the face too. And to give you the Cliff Notes version of this match, it was you knee me, I knee you, I'll knee your nan, and we'll just go knee, 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 knee. Carl then did that again because he kneed his way out of a suplex when he turned that right into a German suplex. And I was just like, Auf Wiedersehen, the gates. That looked really good. Then tried to weaken Malakai's arm because it was just there. When, of course, Black decided to knee Kyle O'Reilly. This is when I was laughing. I mean, I've never seen two wrestlers like knees so much. The brainbuster that followed led to an awesome 1-2 ooh, and this is when they went back to a strike-off. But I love this finish, because Malakai pretended he was going to do one, he feigned the punch, and that meant Kyle O'Reilly's head was right there, and he black masked him right in the face, and he got the 1-2-3. Turned out he was in for a horrible time though, because then all of a sudden weird stuff started happening in the arena, and given that he was stood in the squared circle, a bunch of blood came from the ceiling, and he got bloodbath. But honestly, I'm sure you've seen plenty of bloodbaths in your wrestling career or in your wrestling watching careers, but this was so damn aggressive. If you told me it hurt Malakai Black, I would have totally believed you. Adam Copeland then appeared on the big screen, and he was all like, ha ha ha, be careful what you wish for, Malakai Black. There's no two ways about it. He did get misted in the face, and now he's gone spooky wooky again. I still can't believe they're actually going to do a barbed wire steel cage match in a few days, so I am intrigued. And while this one was just a little bit goofy, you know the deal. I like goofiness, it makes me chuckle, so I am giving it an up. We then got another great video for the Anarchy Arena match at the Double or Nothing, with Bryan Danielson saying he must beat the Elite, because they are trying to destroy AEW, and he loves this company. He also let us know that FTR aren't going to be on Dynamite, because they had their asses whipped on Collision, and once again he turned to the Young Bucks and like, listen, when you do strike, you better hit, because if you miss, I am going to kill you. When I'm just going to get my weekly down out of here now, I am sorry. I will stop eventually, but it was Mariah May and Toni Storm taking on Harley, Cameron and Saraya. While I actually really enjoyed this match, there was a post angle, which we'll talk about in a second, when Serena Deeb came to the ring. And this week, I'm pretty sure she was meant to be the heel. And that, after the speech she gave a couple of weeks about, talking about all the illnesses that she had. So yeah, I just think AEW needs to accept, which I presume they've done now, that Toni Storm is going to be the babyface, but has made this all murky and a little bit messy. So yeah, I'm just going to get out of the way like I've already told you. There's my down, we move on. I want to make it clear that's nothing to do with Toni Storm, and I love the gimmick, and in fact that persona switch is one of the best ever. And I tell you this, her tag team with Mariah May here was really good, as is Harley Cameron. I mean, we were all wrong about her. She's totally smashing it. Toni was still wearing Serena Deeb's flag that she had stolen last week as well. And Taz on commentary was so good here. He was like, well, I'm in a bit of a mood, I'll have you know, because I'm covered in blood from that bloodbath. And I was like, Taz, I totally get it. Saraya then eventually called out Storm, because of course they used to be buddies, and eventually they did go at it. And as soon as Toni got the upper hand, she tagged in May and they did some good old-fashioned teamwork. It's not Saraya's first rodeo though, so of course she pretended to be injured, which did create the opening, because Harley Cameron ran in there and she too got involved. I was like, well, can you believe it? That's more teamwork. They then beat on Mariah May throughout the commercial break, but you know the deal. That just meant Toni Storm was in the corner, increasing her temperature. When she got the hot tag, not only did she throw Saraya into Harley Cameron, but she then went, ha ha, like she was Nelson Muntz. I mean, why the flub not? They then tried to do something off the rope, but actually the bad guys were able to reverse that into double sunset flips, and they got a 1-2 ooh. But I kind of think that just pissed the Timeless One off, because she went crazy after this, and it reminded you, damn, she's a really good wrestler. As soon as they could as well, May and Storm kissed their opponents, because why wouldn't you do that when they hit all the moves, including the Mayday and all the Storm Zeros, and you bet your ass they got the 1-2-3. I thought this was really good. This is when Deeb ran in though, and she just murdered Luther and Mariah May with chairs. When she saw Toni Storm, and she got her shoe, and she smacked her right in the head. And I was like, well, you know, if we do go over the last few months, you have kind of been asking for it. She also got that chair and applied a Boston Crab onto Toni Storm using it, which looked doubly horrible when all the officials ran out going, please stop, please stop. And eventually she did. If I were her, I would have held it off. They made sure to grab her flag because that is hers to begin with as she did walked off. And look, come the pay-per-view, I do think they'll have a great match. And this was really good too, so I am going to give it an up. But also, as a small caveat, let's definitely do more with Harley Cameron. Sadly, there is another down though. The flub is happening. But we did get another post-match attack after this. And it's when my brain realized, man, we're having a lot of post-match attacks to the point we're getting the law of diminishing returns. And I'm now expecting post-match attacks. And you don't really want to do that on any kind of wrestling show. It just means eventually they do all blend into one. And look, it's not a big deal. It doesn't make a massive difference. But it was just my personal observation. And look, once it's in the noggin, I do have to make a decision. And the decision is down. It's wrestling. You can do whatever you want. Just come up with something else. When we over-egged the pudding, but actually the pudding made sense. I don't know what that means. For the Bang Bang Gang were in the back and they were really mad at the Death Triangle when the Gun said this. Listen, Lucha Brothers, you can take us on Collision, and if you win, only then will the Trios Championships be on the line, given that this pay-per-view match is now signed. Now, I actually like this because we have talked about it time and time again. In 2024, and 2023, and 2022, wrestlers love going up to other wrestlers who are champions and going, Geese title shot, and the other wrestler just goes, yeah, sure, why not? So at least we put a bit of logic into this. Actually, I was a big fan. When we got to our main event, and I can't lie, I was super intrigued about Satnam Singh versus Bryan Danielson, especially because in the corner, we also had Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, and of course, Mr. Pencil, Sanjay Dutt. Now, I'm pretty sure this is Singh's first ever singles match on Dynamite, and what a visual this was. Bryan Danielson, when they did stand toe-to-toe, was basically looking at his nipples. Now, Danielson did try to chop him down, but it just got booted right in the face, when Satnam hit him with a delayed vertical suplex. I don't know why this did impress me, but it did. He also threw Bryan into Simba the Steel Steps because he knew the deal, when all of a sudden Danielson must be watching the earlier matches because he came back with all the knees, including one into Barry Barricade. But Satnam has clearly been watching wrestling for a while, and he chokeslammed Bryan onto the ring apron. You know the deal. That's really, really hard, and it's part of the ring. My absolute favourite part, though, is that Satnam, being a bad guy, then decided to rip off Tina the turnbuckle. And as the referee was saying, do you not understand the rules? You can't do that. Danielson snuck up behind him and whammed him right in the testicles. I mean, why not? You got to do something. It really didn't work, though, because Satnam just chopped him right in the head when he picked him up onto his shoulders. And this Bryan, man, he just started elbowing Satnam right in the skull, and eventually he went down, and lickety-split, he applied the label lock, and I started going nuts. I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to do it. And we'll never know, because of course Jeff Jarrett and his crew jumped in the ring, and that annoyed me. Personally, I wouldn't have done it. Now, to be fair, we had made it perfectly clear that Young Bucks had paid these guys to hurt Bryan Danielson. They didn't care about the win or the loss, so it did make sense. And afterwards, they tried to beat Bryan Danielson up here, but he was like a superhero for a while. He dodged the guitar shot from Jeff Jarrett. He got the instrument himself. He swung, and he totally missed, which is when Satnam took his fist, and he punched this instrument, which just exploded. Well, that was a pretty good visual. It meant that the numbers game eventually caught up with Bryan, and he did get beaten up, which was the Young Bucks made their way to the ring, and they paid off Satnam Singh. They were like, hey, good job. When these guys left, they were going to give Bryan the EVP trigger. Damn. Now, this was actually a massive error because Bryan got out of the way, meaning they did smash knees, but just as he was about to take over, of course, here was Okada, here was Jack Perry. It was too much. For some reason, Bryan had absolutely no friends, and he got murdered. It turned out it was all building to the fact we were going to go full-on sports entertainment, because then we cut to the big screen when Darby Allin arrived in a car, and guess who was driving the thing? It was Tony Khan. He has lifted the ban, and they did a fist pump. I love stuff like this. Wrestling is totally absurd, which is doubly true, because Darby Allin then walked into the building, and he had a flamethrower. Now, all he did was go shoo, shoo, and fire it off the place. But it's a bit like, Darby, you either had two intentions here. One, you just wanted to freak people out, which actually does make sense. Or two, you planned to burn people alive. Who are you? Kane? No. The Bucks were so distracted for obvious reasons, they totally forgot about Bryan, who grabbed Nicholas and threw him off the stage through a table. And given that this was building to anarchy in the arena, well, I'm just going to say massive tip. The rest of the Elite all then ran away and they hid behind a table because of course you would do this, as Dynamite went off air with insane Darby Allin. But listen, this is the kind of stuff I want from my wrestling. We just talked about it. You can do whatever you want. So do whatever the flub you want. So I'm going to give this an up because it got me so damn pumped for the pay-per-view, which what a go-home show should do. But I do have one last down, and you're going to have to forgive me. So once again, it's completely personal to me, but I cannot get past that disqualification. And actually, even I know I'm being really unfair here. But because AEW doesn't do DQs very much, when they do pull it out the pocket, I just think it needs to mean something. And here, I really wanted to see how we were going to pull off the finish, because I knew that Bryan Danielson was going to win, and I knew that Satnam Singh was going to lose, but instead we kind of just didn't give the fans anything, and I don't think it matters if Satnam gets defeated. I mean, he barely ever has a match. It wouldn't have made a difference to anything. It also would have made Bryan Danielson like an absolute hero. And look, I'm sure it was Bryan that said, oh, I don't have to beat him. But sometimes Danielson goes way too far with his selflessness. And given that we are on his retirement run, essentially, if he had beaten a giant, I just think that would have been awesome. And again, when we got the DQ, I just felt a little bit deflated because I think we could have been really creative here. So again, that's personal to old stupid Simon Miller, but I am going to give it a down. Overall, though, I thought this AEW Dynamite was really fun, especially the finish. Like, if you rang me up and I was in charge, and you said, listen, boss, can I come out with a flamethrower? I'd be mad because you hadn't suggested it sooner. Just gang it up. Now, of course, please do let me know your opinions about AEW Dynamite in the comments below. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. There is another video on the screen. That's ups and downs for Raw. Please do click that too. Otherwise, I love you, my friends, and I'll see you soon.